Hello everyone. Before we jump into today's story, just a quick request: if you enjoy content like this, subscribing helps the channel more than you can imagine. It's free, fast, and it's what keeps these jaw-dropping real stories coming. Thank you for being here. Let's get into it. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons. Names and details changed for anonymity. I'm Melanie. I'm 3 for .female. And oh boy, this one's going to sound fake, but I promise every word is true. If you've ever grown up in a family where one child shines so brightly that everyone else just disappears into the shadows. I was 6 when she was born, and from that moment, my life split into before Jenna and after Jenna. Hi, welcome, grab a chair. I've got wine and stories. Dad worked long hours at a mortgage firm. Mom stayed home, but always found time to help me with school projects. She'd tie my hair for school, make pancakes on Saturdays, and actually listen when I told her about the weird dream I had. First few times, it wasn't bad. Grandma Nora made these amazing butterscotch cookies and let me watch TV shows I wasn't allowed to see at home. We weren't perfect, but we were present. In my case, the golden child is my younger sister, Jenna, I guess. But they did. They missed my 5th grade poetry contest win, skipped my first school play because Jenna had a cough. She picked up on it so fast. It was like she had a sixth sense for emotional manipulation. Fake crying to avoid school, check. Snatching my clothes, and then crying when I asked for them back. I poured my energy into books. At least novels didn't gaslight you. I buried myself in history, fashion design, and weirdly enough, estate law. Yeah, I know, super random. But something about reading old inheritance cases and watching people fight over antique rings and dusty houses fascinated me. Also check. Pretending to faint once during my 13th birthday party because the candles made her dizzy. Triple check. I spent hours decorating a poster board for a science fair, only for my dad to ask if it could be folded and stored somewhere. Because Jenna was allergic to glue fumes. I wasn't being protected, I was being exiled. Before Jenna, things were decent. Not magical, not Pinterest perfect. But we were a regular family. She came home in this tiny bassinet that looked like it belonged in a science lab. Jenna had a sprained ankle from cheerleading practice, and obviously, that was more urgent. I applied for every scholarship, wrote every essay myself, and even handled my own FAFSA form. Mom said, "You're so independent, sweetie," while helping Jenna apply to private art schools that cost more than our mortgage. Mom and Dad turned into nurses overnight, thermometers, oxygen monitors, sterilizers. Are you sure someone's helping you with applications? I'd nod politely and lie. I was getting used to it. No one helped me move in. Jenna had a dance recital that day. Obviously. They even had color-coded cleaning charts on the fridge. One weekend, she showed me this little velvet box with her old wedding jewelry pieces that weren't even worth much, but the way she talked about them. Instead, I worked nights at an antique shop run by a retired appraiser named Lowell. He noticed I had a sharp eye. That I got sharper. One day, I spotted a brooch buried in a box of custom jewelry. Something was off: weight, color, the pinback. Like each one held a memory. That's where the obsession started. I had solitude. Jenna had piano lessons, birthday parties, customized meals. I spent nights watching free YouTube courses on gemology, luxury fashion, and vintage jewelry authentication. I could tell you whether a sapphire was synthetic or mine by the time I was 17. Not that anyone cared. Back then, it was just something I did in my room while Jenna stole the spotlight downstairs. I had "make yourself a sandwich, sweetie, and you're so independent. That's a good thing." Then Jenna arrived 2 months premature, barely over 4 pounds. And suddenly our house became a crisis ward. I was immediately labeled the risk. If I so much as sniffled, coughed, or looked vaguely tired, I was packed up and shipped to my grandma's house like a contagious box of tissues. But by the 5th, 6th, 12th time, I got it. By the time I turned 10, the pattern was locked in. Jenna had health scares. They didn't mean to forget about me. Glue. Fumes. What really killed me wasn't just being overlooked. It was watching Jenna learn she was the center of the universe. Guess who got yelled at for ruining her special day? Me. By the time I hit high school, I had stopped even trying to compete. It was Grandma Nora who planted the first seed. I didn't realize then that obsession would one day turn into a multi-million-dollar business. Meanwhile, school was both my escape and my battlefield. Teachers liked me, but they always seemed confused. Why are your parents never at conferences? In sophomore year, I saved every dollar from my part-time job at the local library to buy a used laptop. At home, Jenna was gearing up to be a social media influencer in lights, TikToks, dance routines in the kitchen that left me no space to cook. My parents converted the guest room into her filming studio. When I asked to use the dining room table to study for finals, Mom told me not to clutter the space in case Jenna wanted to record a new reel. Sure, got it. Sorry for wanting to graduate. And graduate I did with honors. Not that anyone came. College was my Hail Mary. When I got a full ride to a top university, my dad said, "Oh, that's great. Maybe that means more money left over for Jenna's tuition." Cool. I left for college with 2 suitcases and 0 illusions. It was the first time I lived alone, and it was glorious. I didn't party. I didn't join a sorority. Murdoch Lowell called me a bloodhound in lipstick. That became kind of a thing. By senior year, I had a side gig appraising estate jewelry for local dealers. I even turned my dorm closet into a mini photography studio for cataloging pieces. And the best part, no one knew. Not Jenna, not Mom, not Dad. As far as they were concerned, I was still into old trinkets. Let them think that. I liked being underestimated. It made the reveal so much sweeter when it finally came. But we're not there yet. We're just getting started. So, college was the reset button I didn't know I needed. No parents, no Jenna, no one tiptoeing around their golden child's feelings. Just me, my laptop, and a part-time job at an antique shop. And it turns out, when no one's watching, you grow. Fast, Mr. Lowell the shop owner was. Old school. Think tweed jackets, handwritten ledgers, a magnifying loupe always around his neck. He didn't believe in smartphones, but he believed in my instincts. "You have the eye, Melanie," he'd say while squinting at a brooch under a desk lamp. Most people just see sparkle. You see story. For real clients, estate lawyers, collectors, and occasionally rich kids trying to sell grandma's junk. That stuck with me. Said it was her late aunt's. Most of it was worthless. Plastic beads, cheap chains, until I pulled out a dusty little pendant. By my junior year, I wasn't just helping out at the shop, I was doing appraisals. Real ones. One night, a woman brought in a showbox of tangled costume jewelry. It was small, delicate, and wrong. Too heavy, too precise. I wiped off the back and saw a faint hallmark. Lalique. Renee Lalique. Do you know what that means? Google it. I'll wait. I turned down offers from marketing agencies, consulting firms, every safe job with benefits and fluorescent lighting. Top row, Lalique pendant, $42,000. It sold for $42,000. That moment changed everything. Mr. Lowell cried. I didn't. I was too busy building my first spreadsheet titled Things I Wish My Parents Cared About. After graduation, I didn't go corporate. Instead, I rented a tiny room above a florist shop and registered my business, True North Appraisals. It was nothing. Literally, a second-hand desk. a cheap lamp, and my grandmother's old tea kettle. But it was mine. I built a website, created a logo, emailed everyone I had ever met in the antiques world, cold called estate lawyers. I worked 14-hour days and ate expired granola bars like a raccoon. Apparently, the family believed the jewelry was all fake. I was 22, broke, and weirdly ecstatic. My parents, they thought I was figuring things out. Jenna, she posts selfies from Bali with captions like "hustle culture is toxic #girlboss," welcoming me to ask if I could send her $50 just till Friday. Spoiler, I didn't. The business was slow at first, mostly small jobs, a few engagement rings, probate collections, a guy who swore he had a Fabergé egg he did not. But I treated every client like royalty. Clean reports, sharp photos. I never missed a deadline. Reputation spread. One day, I got a call from a lawyer handling a huge estate for a wealthy widow. It wasn't. I found a Victorian mourning brooch with a locket of hair sealed inside, marked Whippy Jet, an antique diamond hair comb, and brace yourself a platinum Cartier bracelet tucked inside an old sock drawer, wedged behind a box of Christmas lights. The total value? $850,000. They paid me a 5% commission. Said his grandfather passed away, left him a house and some dusty stuff in the attic. That day, I stared at my bank account in disbelief. $42,500. My parents once told me I shouldn't aim too high with my talents. That number felt like revenge in number form, but I didn't tell anyone, not a soul. I still came home for family dinners, wore my Target cardigans, let Jenna laugh when she said, "It's so cute how you play with jewelry." Meanwhile, the earrings I wore, vintage Van Cleef, worth more than her rent. But the real turning point came 2 years later. I was sitting in my little office when a man walked in wearing a coat that screamed old money, dusty stuff. Try a hand-carved diamond tiara from the Edwardian era, buried under a pile of newspaper from 1972. I had it authenticated, insured, and eventually sold it on behalf of his estate. Final sale price, $2.10 million. My cut, 6%. I thought you worked at, like, a flea market. You do the math. Now, listen, money doesn't solve everything. But let me tell you what it does fix. My mom got suspicious and asked if I was dipping into credit cards. It buys you security. Like that was an insult. It lets you pay off your student loans without blinking. It allows you to hire a lawyer when your dad jokes about putting your sister's name on your business just in case something happens. Yeah, that happened. Suddenly, my family started noticing me again. My mom said, "So, when are you going to get a real job?" I said, "I think appraising luxury heirlooms is pretty real." She said, "Oh, okay. Let's talk about the Thanksgiving that cracked everything wide open." I offered to cater the meal. Said I wanted to treat everyone. Sure, the credit card with a 7-figure limit and zero balance. Dinner was flawless. I hired a Michelin-trained chef. Imported wine. Jenna said the gravy was a bit too smooth. She spent the meal bragging about her influencer brand deals. Mom clapped like she'd won a Nobel. Meanwhile, I excused myself to take a call from a client in Geneva about a necklace that could be worth $3 million. I came back, and Jenna said, "So, Melanie, how's your little hobby going?" And I smiled, because little did she know, that hobby just passed $4.3 million in quarterly revenue. But I said, "Oh, you know, same old, trying to keep up. Sometimes, being underestimated is your greatest weapon." But that weapon, it was about to explode, because 2 weeks later, Jenna found out exactly how much money I had. And what happened next would go nuclear. So, let's rewind to 2 days before Thanksgiving. My mother called, sniffling into the phone like she'd just watched The Notebook for the first time. "Melanie," she whined, "my back's acting up again. I can't imagine cooking dinner for 20 people with this herniated disc." I offered what I thought was a reasonable solution. "Why don't I handle Thanksgiving this year?" Her response, "Oh honey, we can't afford catering. You know your father's been cutting hours." "I've been saving," I said. "It's covered. Just let me do this." Spoiler, I hadn't been saving. I had just closed a deal authenticating a rare emerald pearl for a Dubai client. The commission alone was more than her annual income. But let's not split hairs. I hired one of the best private chefs in the city. Their Thanksgiving menu made Michelin stars weep. Everyone raved about the food, except Jenna, of course. Old habits die hard. Roasted truffle turkey, bourbon-glazed carrots, cranberry sauce infused with orange zest, and rosemary. One of my European clients wanted a rare Art Nouveau necklace authenticated before they placed a final bid. So I stepped into my old bedroom, the one Mom preserved like a time capsule. Trophies still on the shelf. That outdated Jonas Brothers poster still on the wall. So it was, objectively, the most luxurious Thanksgiving my family had ever experienced. But still, I wore my usual I am just getting by outfit. A plain wool sweater and scuffed boots that actually cost more than Jenna's entire shoe rack. Now, the drama began in slow motion. We were all seated. My parents, Jenna, our extended family cousins, aunts, even Uncle Ron, who only shows up for free booze. "This stuffing tastes like it came from a store," she sniffed. "Mom's is just warmer, coming from the girl who once set her Pop-Tarts on fire in college." I stayed silent. Halfway through dinner, I excused myself. There was a live auction happening in Hong Kong. Timing mattered. Just saying. "So this is what you've been hiding." Meanwhile, Jenna's room had been remodeled 3 times since college. Anyway, I opened my laptop and started running the authentication software I developed. Several tabs were open: banking portals, client contracts, live valuation spreadsheets. You know, normal millionaire business. Then Jenna barged in. Didn't knock. Didn't pause. Just walked in like she owned the place. "Borrowing your charger," she said. Then she froze. Her eyes locked onto the screen. My business dashboard. It was like a dashboard of financial disbelief. Account balance, $12.4 million. Pending contracts, $485,000. Recent transaction, $1.2 million. Q3 profit, $4.2 million. She stared, then smiled. Not a nice smile. "Oh," she said slowly, like a predator who had just sniffed fresh prey. "Jenna, don't," I said, reaching for the laptop. But she already had it in her hands. "Let's show the fam what their poor little antique shop workers really been up to." And then she walked out. I followed her, heart hammering in my chest. The dining room was full of laughter, wine, and the clink of dessert forks. "Hey everyone," Jenna called out sweetly. "Want to see what Melanie's been doing on Thanksgiving?" She turned the laptop around for everyone to see, and silence felt like a guillotine. You could hear the ticking of the wall clock Mom thought was a cute replica. It wasn't. For 5 long seconds, no one said a word. But I've been building this business for the last 8 years. Then Rachel's voice cracked the silence. "Every award, every success dismissed. Meanwhile, you burned toast and got a standing ovation. She's rich," to anger. My mother squinted. "What is this, Melanie? Is this real? Her loans, her therapy bills, her car is 12 years old." I stood, took the laptop gently, and closed it. "Yes," I said, "it's real. I own one of the largest jewelry authentication firms in the country, offices in 3 cities. I work with international clients, I built it from scratch. And yes, I'm worth millions through a fund I set up, Q Pandemonium, because I thought maybe, just maybe, you'd finally see me as more than the disappointment daughter. My father choked on his whiskey. Aunt Carol dropped her fork. My cousin Mark literally gasped like it was a soap opera reveal. You think Aunt Carol just felt generous? And my mother, she laughed. Like, actually laughed. Loud. Unhinged. Oh, Melanie, she said, stop pretending. You work at a flea market. That stung more than I expected. No, I said. That's what you assumed. That's what you wanted to believe. Never saved for my future. And now you want more, Jenna. Now pale, muttered. $12 million. How could you not tell us? I locked eyes with her. Maybe because every time I shared anything remotely positive, you made me feel small. My mom's expression changed. From disbelief. You let us struggle, she hissed, while you sat on a fortune. Do you know what your sister's been through? I blinked, and I've been sending you $7,000 a month for the last 3 years. Anonymously, more silence. You what? Dad said, eyes wide. And all those family dinners you hosted, I added. The fancy wine, the birthday gifts, the house repairs. Jenna's jaw dropped. So you've been, what, you playing charity to us? No, I said. I was helping, quietly. My mother looked like she'd combust. You owe this family, she spat. After everything we gave you. Gave me? I said, nearly laughing. You sent me away every time I sneezed. Skipped every achievement. They didn't answer. So I grabbed my laptop, picked up my handbag, walked to the door. As I left, I heard my mom say, well, she better help Jenna now, at least with the MBA. And I knew this was far from over. Thanksgiving was supposed to be stuffing, laughter, and gravy. Instead, it turned into a full-blown financial intervention hosted by the entitled. After I walked out, I assumed the awkward silence would eventually settle like whipped cream over a pie. Nope. Within 1 hour, my phone was in meltdown mode. 47 missed calls, over 200 messages, a family group chat that looked like a war zone, and my mother, she went full emotional roller coaster via text. 7:42 p.m. How dare you walk out on your family? 8:15 p.m. We need to talk about this like adults. 9:03 p.m. Your sister deserves a share of your success. 10:30 p.m. I've already called a realtor about houses in a better neighborhood. 11:45 p.m. Why aren't you answering? This is your mother. And then, of course, Jenna, the queen of passive aggression, went nuclear. She posted a long, dramatic Facebook status filled with melodrama and veiled attacks. All these years, I supported my sister. I helped her chase her dreams, gave her advice, encouraged her to believe in herself, and she was hiding millions. Meanwhile, we were drowning in loans. Guess kindness doesn't pay. The comment section, unhinged. Distant cousins jumped in with family is everything. Memes. Old high school classmates who wouldn't have said hi at the grocery store suddenly had thoughts about my moral compass. One guy I dated for 3 months in college actually commented, "This is why I couldn't commit to her. She was always distant." Sir, you ghosted me after 2 Chili's dates. But the most absurd part, Jenna claimed she gave me career advice. I actually screamed when I read that line. I was prepping for a high-profile Zoom call with a Saudi collector when Jenny, my receptionist, buzzed my intercom. They say they have an appointment for authentication. The only career advice she ever gave me was to try selling vintage bracelets on Etsy. People love that boho stuff. Meanwhile, I was busy authenticating a Cartier tiara once owned by literal royalty. And then it got worse. Mom had her "we are being so reasonable" smile. Dad just looked tired. They came to my office. Yep, Monday morning, 9:47 a.m. We discussed things as a family. You had a family meeting without me about my money. Melanie, your parents and sister are in the waiting area. What? I walked out and there they were, Mom, Dad, and Jenna. Jenna held her Michael Kors bag like it was a Birkin. I didn't say a word, just waited. Mom jumped in first. Oh, I said. She ignored that. We think, she continued, that it's only fair you set up some trust funds for Jenna's future, for our retirement. It's not just for me, it's for our legacy. Jenna chimed in. I need at least $2 million to really get my business off the ground. Dad added, your mother and I have always dreamed of retiring near the beach. A modest home, maybe Florida. I stared at them. You'd think they were negotiating a grocery bill, not asking for millions like it was pocket change. Did you all miss the part? I said slowly, where I've been sending you $7,000 a month for years. That's nothing compared to what you have. Jenna snapped. You owe us. Oh, that word. Oh, it set something off inside me. You think I owe you? I said, voice ice cold. For what? For missing every graduation? For ignoring every success? For telling everyone I was the disappointing one while you threw everything into Jenna's mediocre accomplishments? Mom stepped forward, touching my arm. Don't be dramatic. Melanie, we gave you everything. Food, shelter, a childhood. No, I said, pulling away. I gave myself everything. And for the record, I'm done. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and right there, in front of them, canceled the monthly transfer. Mom gasped like I had slapped her. Dad's face turned beet red. Jenna tried to summon a tear, but it didn't land. Melanie, how could you? That's not even a joke. You tried to humiliate me in front of the family, and now you want to profit off it. You broke into my bedroom. You exposed my finances. They refused to leave. Security had to escort them out. I watched as my 60-year-old mother yelled about ungrateful children while being politely removed by lobby security. Even reached out through my company's contact page as potential clients. Just put them on the building's do not admit list. My mother's mother, a no-nonsense woman who once told Jenna, you can't Photoshop personality. Jenny turned to me and whispered, should I press charges? No. I sighed. The letter outlined how continued contact would result in legal action. They tried everything after that. Fake emails, spoofed phone numbers. I had to have my lawyer draft a formal harassment notice. That's when Mom pulled out her last card, Grandma June, the only member of the family I actually cared about. More high-profile clients came to us, praising our discretion. My mom called her crying, playing the victim, trying to pit her against me. Grandma's response? Good for Melanie. I always knew she'd be the one to rise, and I'm proud of her for cutting you off. Mom didn't speak to her for 2 months after that. Now they tell people they never wanted my money, and they're praying for my soul. 6 months later, I moved to a gated home in a secure neighborhood. Full-time security, new numbers, new email. New life. The company thriving. Oddly enough, the Thanksgiving drama boosted our reputation. I even gave a TEDx talk on authentication fraud and luxury branding. Jenna, from what I've heard, she's trying to launch her own jewelry authentication startup. She has already copied part of my website layout and used a publicly debunked Cartier piece as her profile photo. Mom and Dad, after my lawyer followed up with them, they finally stopped contacting me. Touching, right? It turns out cutting off toxic family members doesn't just clear your mental health. It skyrockets your professional life. Within 3 weeks of the Thanksgiving incident, we landed for new high-profile clients who specifically mentioned how much they respected my ability to maintain discretion despite personal chaos. One of them, a very famous athlete's wife who whispered, "If I had your spine, I'd be divorced already." So yeah, business was booming. And Jenna, she spiraled. At first, she tried to keep up appearances. Instagram posts showed her sipping overpriced lattes captioned with #girlboss in the making. Facebook was full of inspirational quotes stolen from Pinterest. Like, "Don't let anyone dim your shine even if it blinds them." Meanwhile, she was frantically Googling how to start jewelry authentication business and sending out cold DMs to my former interns. Yep, she literally tried to recruit people I had trained. One of them forwarded her message to me with the subject line, "Your sister doesn't even know what a loop is." Then came the press release. Not joking. A press release announcing the grand opening of Golden Eye Authentication, a fresh, fashion-forward take on the old-fashioned world of jewelry verification, and a mission statement full of buzzwords like female energy, luxury empowerment, and chakraware appraisals. She had a logo that looked like it was made in Microsoft Paint. What even is that? She didn't know the difference between Art Deco and Art Nouveau, and she thought hallmarks were something you buy at the greeting card aisle. Still, I said nothing, because I wasn't afraid of her competition. You can't fake credibility in this industry. But what happened next? He's inherited a large estate from his late aunt and wants several pieces authenticated. Even I couldn't have scripted it. The client catastrophe one day. We get a call from a private collector, very wealthy, very discreet. He specifically requests a modern, edgy take on the process and mentions he was referred by Jenna. She had apparently bragged at a cocktail party about being the mind behind her sister's success. He asks if we'd be willing to collaborate with her firm. Oh boy. After a deep breath, I agree to a joint consultation on one condition. It happens at our New York office, and all parties bring documented credentials. The collector agrees. Jenna shows up 15 minutes late, wearing sunglasses indoors, and holding a clipboard that looked suspiciously empty. She's wearing a blazer 2 sizes too big and carrying the same Michael Kors bag she used during her invasion at my office. Within minutes, it's obvious she's in over her head. The collector presents an Edwardian diamond tiara and asks her opinion. Her answer, "Oh wow, vintage. Definitely real diamonds. You can tell by the sparkle." Ma'am, that tiara had no diamonds. They were early crystal paste, a known signature style of 1910s theatrical costume pieces. I calmly waited my turn, pulled out a jeweler's loupe, identified the French export mark, referenced the matching design catalog from 1912, and gave the full history of the maker. Collector, impressed. Jenna, sweating. Then came the kicker. The collector asked her to authenticate a brooch she claimed to be Art Nouveau. She glanced at it for 2 seconds and said, "Oh totally. That's what they call nouveau chic." Right or wrong. It was Victorian mourning jewelry, made from jet, designed to honor a widow's late husband. The silence was loud. That client left with all his items in my briefcase, a firm handshake, and a contract to work exclusively with my firm moving forward. Jenna stormed out muttering something about being under the weather. She posted a grief selfie on Instagram that night with the caption, "Sometimes energy just gets drained when people don't believe in your vision." The viral meltdown. 3 days later, she posted a TikTok that made things so much worse. It started like a motivational video, but quickly turned into a 6-minute rant about betrayal, stolen ideas, and capitalist sisters who hoard wealth like dragons. Someone stitched it. Then another. Then another. By the weekend, the original video had 400,000 views and people were digging into her fake credentials. Turns out, she had no certifications, no training, and had plagiarized sections of her website from multiple authentication blogs including mine. The comments turned brutal. "So she's broke. AND can't tell cubic zirconia from quartz. Nepotism baby with a victim complex. Classic. Your sister has a TEDx talk. You have Canva templates. She took the video down within 48 hours. But the damage was done. Her business folded within 2 weeks. We were wondering if you could help Jenna get back on her feet. Maybe hire her as an assistant. She's really grown. My parents tried again just when I thought they'd gotten the message. I received a voicemail from my mom. Hi, sweetie. So proud of you. My M. You wanted me to fund her MBA 2 months ago. Now she's grown enough to be my assistant. I didn't even respond. And then I did one final thing. I hosted a small event for industry insiders, a soft launch of our new European office. Guess who got wind of it? Yep. Jenna sent an email using a fake name, literally J. Cartier, asking for an invite. My assistant flagged it immediately. So I did what any normal person would do. I had the invitation accidentally forwarded to her real email with a special RSVP message. Hi Jenna, we appreciate your interest in high-end jewelry authentication. Unfortunately, this event is limited to licensed professionals only. Best of luck in your future endeavors. Management. She didn't reply, but she did post a cryptic tweet. Just remember, diamonds are made under pressure. So is revenge. Cool. Maybe she can authenticate that. It's been 6 months since Thanksgiving exploded into chaos. 6 months since my sister tried to expose me and ended up accidentally broadcasting that I was worth over $12 million. 6 months since my family decided I wasn't their daughter anymore, just their uncooperative bank account. And honestly, 6 months since I've breathed this freely in my entire life. Let me tell you how it ended and how I made damn sure it stayed that way. Aftermath of the fallout. Thanksgiving night, I came home, closed the door of my quiet house, poured a glass of Bordeaux from my private collection, and turned my phone off. The last thing I saw was a flurry of notifications. Rachel, you betrayed me, and Mom, hope the money keeps you warm. Dad, you were always the selfish one. Don't contact us again unless you're ready to do right. Mom, you'll regret this when you're old and alone. You know what? I didn't feel regret. I felt relief. I slept better that night than I had in years. Work didn't stop, it got better. My firm continued thriving. We opened a small satellite location in Paris to handle the influx of European collectors. Apparently, news of the woman whose family tried to rob her made the rounds in elite antique circles. People admired my restraint, my success, and ironically my anonymity. Even Forbes reached out. They published a feature titled, "The Invisible Mogul: How One Woman Built a $12 million empire while playing small for her family." Rachel definitely saw it. How do I know? She posted a vague Instagram story 2 hours later that said, "Success means nothing when you sold your soul. Girl, you sold fake Tiffany earrings on Etsy. Relax." The final visit, I thought it was over. Until they came to my office, unannounced. All 3 of them. My receptionist Jenny was so stunned she thought they were lost. Nope. They marched in like they owned the building. Rachel was holding a binder full of nothing. Dad wore his Sunday best. Mom had a look like she meant business. Here's how it went. Mom, we've decided it's time to move forward. We're family. After all, you screamed at me for not giving you millions. Now you want a fresh start. Dad, well, it's not about the money, but you do have it, and we raised you. We deserve to enjoy what you built. Rachel, we should all be millionaires. You owe us for keeping your secret. They were serious. Dead serious. They weren't there to apologize. They were there to negotiate. Mom even pulled out a piece of paper, a list of demands. A trust fund for Rachel, a down payment on a Florida condo, monthly living stipend for Mom, and Dad a car for Rachel because her current one is too embarrassing. To park near yoga class, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I walked over to the phone on my assistant's desk and called security. Yes, again. Rachel tried to argue. Dad looked like he might cry. Mom just shouted, "This is betrayal," as she was escorted out. But I was calm, because this time, I had all the power. Before she left, I handed Mom a sealed envelope. Inside, a cease and desist letter, drafted by my attorney, officially barring them from contacting me, my employees, or my business in any way. Any further communication would result in legal consequences. And then, silence. After that, the silence was strange, peaceful, but eerie. No more voicemails calling me ungrateful. No more texts guilt-tripping me about Rachel's failures. No more cryptic social media subtweets. They had been cut off legally and financially. For good. I moved houses again. Gated community. Installed next-level security. Updated all my business protections. And you know what? I finally started decorating for myself. My office got a luxury renovation. My home, custom lighting, high-end furniture. The works. It didn't feel like I was hiding anymore. It felt like I was claiming the life I'd built. Grandma Marie's return. Guess who came to visit after all this? Grandma Marie. She flew in first class on my dime, because she deserved it. She brought her vintage costume jewelry collection and her unmatched sass. She stepped into my office, looked around at the glass walls, the team of stylists working on pieces worth 6 figures, and said, "Well, damn, kid, you really did it." I teared up. We spent 3 days going through her old pieces, laughing, drinking tea, and planning our next vacation. She wants to see Italy again before her knees give out. She also asked how much Rachel S. bracelet was worth, the one she flaunted in that last Instagram post. My response, fake. Like her resume. Grandma cackled. Life now is real. I go to therapy weekly. I travel when I want. I donate anonymously to causes I care about. I have boundaries and self-respect, and I've built everything myself. Sometimes I wonder if they'll ever apologize. Then I remember, they didn't want me to succeed. They wanted me to succeed just enough to fund their lives. And that was never love. Final note to Rachel, because I know you're reading, Rachel. Rachel, that Cartier bracelet you're showing off on Instagram? Definitely a fake. But you already knew that, didn't you? Just like your work ethic, your empathy, your girl boss persona. Don't worry, I won't sue you for trademark infringement. Because unlike you, I don't need to prove anything. I already did. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. New Reddit-style drama drops every week. Real stories, real stakes, and real consequences. See you in the next one.